that, but that's okay. And we'll start now. For any questions, concerns, or, you know, if you want to like screen share what you've been working on and talk through anything specific. But I will not use this time to go over course content just because, as I said, it's all designed. The PowerPoints either have voiceovers or I have a video posted or something to go along with it that will give you exactly what you need in terms of content to be successful in learning what I want you to learn in this class. And so that being said, the bulk of your coursework is going to consist of creating a portfolio. Your portfolio will be directly related to an early childhood program of your choice. And I'm not sure, I heard some folks talking about Head Start and, you know, sounds like maybe teachers, practitioners with young children. And so I don't know where you're at in terms of, do you actually have an interest in administration of a program? And, or do you even want to work in a traditional childcare, you know, center? And so I open it up to whatever floats your boat, basically. In the past, I have had students do traditional childcare for their portfolio project. I have had everything from equestrian therapy services to summer camps and, you know, after school programs for older children. I really want you to tailor this to your own interests because I don't want it to just be busy work. I want it to be something, you know, that is relevant and relatable to you. So, do you have a question, Angela?
Yes. So it can be like you doing a, like if you're doing childcare, like a, if you're gonna open up a childcare, right?
Yep.
And you're doing your philosophy and all that you want to do.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What you want.
So basically, whatever program you decide that you want to work on, you're going to pretty much create a hypothetical scenario where you're operating this type of program. So if it's childcare for you, you're going to give it a name. Like you said, you're going to write a mission statement, a philosophy, a vision, and you're going to have 3 kind of main assignments related to that, in addition to the creation of a website. So you'll create a very basic web page, and I can show you an example of that. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, so I'll back up to that in just a minute. But you're going to just basically assume that this is your program, and you have to give information to families, information to your staff. So you're going to have a family handbook, a personnel handbook, which is the information that your staff will need. And then we're going to have a specific piece on health and safety policies. And so you'll have a health and safety handbook as well. And then from those 3 large documents, so I want your web page turned in fairly early on, just to make sure that I'm in the know about everyone's program choice, and kind of, you know, have a sense of where we're going. But that's going to be like a working document. And so as you create your program mission statement and all those things, you can go back in and kind of plug those things into your website to make it a little bit more realistic in terms of, if I was a mom and I wanted to know about, you know, whatever the name of your program is, this is what I would see when I went to your website. Okay. Does that sound good so far?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to back up just a little bit and give you some context for kind of where this is coming from. And this is all, let me go ahead and share my screen. This is all linked to the course page. I also want to talk about like organization of the class page, because I know if you've been on here, some of these weeks you're like, oh my goodness, there's a lot of content posted, right? And I recognize that, but a lot of it is just there to give you examples of what I'm looking for and to kind of help guide your thought process. It's not intended to be as overwhelming as it may seem. So I'm going to start up here at the top of the course page with a little note to you that your program website is due at the end of this week, okay? And so you can use something basic like Google Sites to create that. People might use Wix. There are a lot of options. If you do a quick Google search on, free web pages, you'll come up with a ton of options. And let me show you an example. I don't know if y'all are seeing. Give me 1 second. This is an example of, this is again, very bare bones, just basic, but like, this is what I'm looking for. Okay. So it's gonna just have, you might take a photo off the internet. If you work with children and you have permission to use those photographs, those are okay too. This will not be shared. It will not be published. It's just for the purposes of this course. But again, you're gonna name, you might have a tagline, and then, as you develop your portfolio project, you can plug these pieces in, right? And put your diversity statement, your teaching philosophy, how you partner with the community, those types of things as you see fit. And this is going to be very individualized. So I like to tell people up front, there's not really a right or a wrong to how you do this. I just want to see that you have thoughtfully taken content from the course, digested it, and put it back into this project. There is a lot of guidance. And so you will have some, there are some specific things that have to be included, like in your program handbook, for example. And there's a document online that will tell you all of those things that have to be included. But in terms of the language that you use, the concepts that you put out there, there's not a right or wrong necessarily. It's just, I want to see that it makes sense for appropriate childcare best practices, those types of things. Okay. So going back over to the course page, the reason that I have folks complete this portfolio project is years ago, and I'll be honest with you all, I haven't had to do this work in a very long time. To get my credentials, it's a one and done. And so I know you can test out, and I know there's certain coursework that gets you not required to complete this portfolio, but I'm just going to talk about when I went through it, because the portfolio is still a thing with DCDEE, and a licensing consultant can give you more specifics about this. But when I went through my master's program as a part of a class, I completed this portfolio. And when I graduated and I had the opportunity to apply for a job as an administrator, I took my portfolio as I had completed it. I mailed it off to Raleigh. And because I had included the things to over here where you see level 3 options, and the EDU 261 and 262, that's this class, and 4553, I believe, which is leadership and advocacy. I don't know if y'all are taking that in addition to this at some point, but I suspect you are, or maybe that's just BK majors. Anyways, again, this is all just to give you like an understanding of where this work comes from, right? You don't need to know all of this. But if at some point you are interested in pursuing a career as an administrator, you can take these pieces of the portfolio that you will have, and then you would need to add to them. I'm getting a bunch of echo and I'm not sure why. Then you would need to add to it to complete your level 3 portfolio. And you can send that off to Raleigh, and that, in addition to your coursework, will have you credentialed as a level 3 administrator. Can you give me 1 second? Sorry. Okay. And the only reason that I'm even sharing about this portfolio is because I want you all to see what I mean when I have, y'all, can y'all even see this portfolio? Are you still looking at the course page? Okay, I'm just making sure. So now I'm back on the course page. Can you see that? Perfect. So right here, week 2, it says create program 1B. So if you want to know specifically what that assignment reads like in the portfolio, you're going to open that link at the top of the course page right here, which is called portfolio. And then you're looking for program. So these are the categories: leadership, program, rules and regulations. And we're talking about program level 1B. So it's right here. And it reads, develop written operational policies for families in your center that include 5 of the following: a philosophy, your goals, some family involvement opportunities, your program policies, operating procedures, and or a fee schedule. Okay, and so based on that, which is what the state deems important for you to know about how to write program operational policies, then I have given you that assignment with this additional handout that's going to tell you specifically what to include. Okay, and so what I want you to know about the course organization on the page is that week 2, all of the things that are over to the far left, this is work for you to do that week. The things that are indented to the right are resources to help you complete that handbook assignment. Okay, so you could open this document. And it's going to say, for your portfolio assignment, program level 1B, you will create a family handbook that includes these things. And this is what I want to see in your program handbook. And it's pulled directly from that with some more things that I think you should and need to know about, or you need to think through in terms of, you know, like your guidance and discipline policy. How are you going to tell families of young children how you're going to handle challenging behaviors, et cetera, in your program? I will say here that overview of the curriculum, if you are choosing to do something that's not traditional childcare, like early intervention, or sometimes people are interested in child life, by show of virtual hands, is anybody in this group not interested in traditional childcare program and would rather do their portfolio on something else? No, we are a group of early childhood traditional childcare people. Okay, cool. So then that's pretty straightforward, right? You want to just give an overview of your curriculum. We plan emergently based on the children's interests. We use a creative curriculum, you know, 5th edition, whatever it's going to be for your program, but you need to say that to families. I'll say this for the recording: if you're choosing something outside the box, like early intervention or child life or something else, you still, even though you're not going to be following a traditional curriculum like a childcare program would, you're going to be doing something with children in your care, right? So you want to tell people, you know, we will be working on intervention goals through a play-based approach, yada, 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 something to tell people who don't know about your program what it is that you do. And that's the purpose of all of these kind of parts and pieces. I'll pause here for questions or concerns. Not yet. We're off to a good start. Okay, and so this is worth 100 points. This is one of your major assignments, operational policies for families. And again, you know, if you feel like telling people who would go to your website about ways to get involved with your program, if you feel like that's important, then you can create a link on your webpage that says family involvement opportunities. Here are some ways you can partner with us and be a part of your child's education and care, or whatever, you know. That's completely up to you in terms of what you think, after you've kind of done some of this work, what you think is most important to sort of highlight for the general public, for families. And so again, your web page is going to be due at the end of the week, but it's just going to be a skeleton. And then as the semester progresses, you will go back in and kind of plug things in, and I will grade your final product at the end of our time together. But I just want it turned in so that I can see that we're all on track moving forward. All right. So again, all of these things, and I say this in this video right here, as I'm kind of talking through week 2 stuff, but philosophy, this link right here, beliefs about children, and then all of these program handbooks, they are just there to give you guidance, to kind of help you think through, what do I need to think about in terms of writing a program philosophy, and then to give you some templates of what other handbooks might look like. I will tell you this, I've taught this course for a long time now, and honestly, y'all, I have literally had people to turn in my own program handbook to me as their assignment. And I will know if you choose to do that, and you will not be successful in this course. So do not copy and paste from those documents, please. Just use them to get, ideas and a sort of a sense of direction. And then I want to see your own thoughts and I really want to see your own interests. Some people are really passionate about nature programs, and so they do like an outdoor preschool that's kind of a forest school, or something that speaks to, and it can be whatever you want it to be, because this is imaginary, right? So it's fun and it's supposed to be playful, and you're not bound by a budget and all the stuff that happens in the real world. So go pie in the sky and have fun with it and make it your own. And I think that will serve you in this class, as well as in kind of thinking about, when I do hit the ground running after I graduate, what might I want to be when I grow up or do with my life? I'm still trying to figure that out. So program handbook is one big chunk. Let's see, we will have another call well before the health policies and the personnel policies are due. So I'm not going to go too far ahead of just talking about this kind of first initial stuff. Does anybody have questions about anything that I've gone over so far? I know some of you guys were on a little bit late. Did everybody kind of catch up to speed and figure out what in the world I'm talking about?
I'm going to go back and watch the recording, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, I don't think you've missed much, but yeah, definitely it's available, and it'll be posted shortly after this class. So, okay, so then I think the only other thing in the way of introductions to the class is to talk about the forum reflections. So I try to kind of shift it up. I mean, I realize we're here for 5 weeks. It's not very long. Hopefully you won't get completely bored of it that quickly, but there's not a forum post every week. There are a handful throughout the term. And so I just want to make sure that you recognize when those are posted, that it's something that is a part of the class expectations. So you'll be, reflecting on content that you read or something that, was shared during that week, and then engaging with a couple of your peers around a discussion of those topics. And then the only other thing that you're responsible for is going to be the written comprehensive assignment, which is basically like a 10-question short answer final exam, for lack of a better term for it. But I don't call it a final exam because it's not quite as intensive as that. Everything will be open book, open notes, so you can go back and use course content to help you write your reflections and your answers. Again, I just want to see that you're being thoughtful in terms of you know, did you watch the videos? Do you understand what we've been talking about in this class? And if so, kind of how do you interpret that information to be applicable to real life childcare administration? Hopefully everyone got a chance to at least see that I sent you an email. It has a little intro video about me. That's why I didn't do all of that on this call. I don't want to waste y'all's time and double dip. I don't think I say in that video that I am no longer in childcare administration. And so I will say that here, some of these recordings were done, you know, from my office at my program when I was still doing it. And so I talk about it like in the present tense, but that is no longer my reality. COVID and kind of the world has like tilted on its axis, you know what I mean? And I am home with my 2 children. That's why I had to pause you guys a few minutes ago. I have a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old, and they run amok. Mostly they do well when I'm on Zoom calls. It's easier in the evening because my husband's home as well. But I teach a lot during the day, during like the regular terms. And sometimes it's unpredictable, but we have a lot of fun. And so I'm applying everything that I know about early childhood education, and, you know, what I believe children should be doing and learning in their early years at home now with my own girls, which is a huge blessing. I did administrative work for almost 10 years. And I just felt like my time there had come to an end about a year ago. So, but I do have lots of experience. I teach this not in so much of an async way. And so I'm able to share more kind of anecdotally, you know, from that experience. You won't get as much of that in this class, number one, because it's condensed down to 5 weeks. And number two, because I'm just kind of hitting the highlights of the course content in my videos and not so much ad-libbing and talking. But anyways, you'll learn a lot, I think, about, you know, the ins and outs of program administration. If you do the readings, listen to the videos. In some of the PowerPoints, there's a voiceover, and so it will be of service to you if you just kind of click that and let me talk you through the slides. I don't do that every time, maybe in fact, even only once or twice, because for me, I don't learn best that way. I need to maybe read on my own and not be listening to someone talk. But if I do put a voiceover on there, it's because there are things maybe not written down that I want you to hear from me directly. So, and yeah, I think that's pretty much what I wanted to tell you all this evening. Again, I'm not going to really spend much time going over course content. I will share this with you quickly before we go, because even though we are all, I think, on this call interested in, can you all see this PowerPoint? It sounds like everyone is mostly interested in childcare, traditional type of programs. I just want to make sure that you see and kind of hear all of the options. And even within, you know, the traditional childcare model, there are a variety of program types, right? And there's a PowerPoint, I think week 2 will elaborate on this more, but just to give you kind of a context for what we're talking about in this class, different programs for young children might include childcare or enrichment programs. And under that umbrella, we have public state supported programs. Can anybody give me an example of a public state supported childcare program?
NC Pre-K.
NC Pre-K, you got it, Jennifer. Head Start, that's more federal funded, but same type of thing. And then on the other, you know, piece of the bracket, we have private, profit, or nonprofit, right? So for-profit or nonprofit privatized programs. These are programs where parents are assuming the tuition rather than it being public or state supported.
Yeah, Head Start would be nonprofit.
Sorry?
Head Start would be the nonprofit.
It is a nonprofit, but it's also federally funded.
Yeah. Oh,
So,
yeah.
Yeah. So parents are not paying. Now, my program at Generations, it was a nonprofit. So we were licensed as a 501c3,
Okay.
a nonprofit, but parents paid private tuition costs. In addition to, and this is where it gets kind of tricky, right? We were a multifaceted program. So at one point in time, we had NC pre-K slots in my preschool classroom. We were also a developmental day center. And I don't know if anyone's familiar with what that means, but that's another type of public state supported funding for a program. And if you're a developmental day site, then it means you meet lower ratios, lower child to staff ratios. You serve children with a certain percentage, like a 25% delay in one or more categories of development.
We have both of those at my school.
Yeah. And so my point here is that most programs are not just one thing. Many programs are a variety of types of childcare programs, because funding, I'll go ahead and say this on night one at 6:30, funding is the hardest part of this work, right? And so figuring out how to kind of conglomerate funds and use private pay parent tuition as well as public state supported funding, and maybe some grants, or what the name of the game is to try to get all the dollars in the pot that you can get so that you can provide high quality care, you can pay your staff worthy wages, you can have the materials that you need. All of that comes down to that bottom line of the dollars. And so I think I've already mentioned in terms of what public state supported looks like, is this NC pre-K idea, developmental day programs, and also Head Start. Some things that you may not think about when you think about that private sector, nonprofit, sometimes faith-based programs, they're affiliated with another organization like a church, or, we also sometimes see private chains like Bright Horizons is an example that comes to mind.
I worked for Chesterbrook Academy for about 15 years. So
yeah. And so what those are going to look like is kind of a cookie cutter model. They all have a similar approach. They all have a similar philosophy. And if I go to one in North Carolina, I could go to one in Virginia and get kind of the same feel, but that's still a privatized for-profit situation. The thing that I think happens sometimes, and we don't necessarily think about it, is when a private childcare program is affiliated with like a corporation. So like General Electric, they have a big plant, maybe they provide childcare for their employees. And then, they have like 25 slots that are open to the public for people in that community who need care. I'm totally making that up, but there are also situations like a gym membership where, you pay to use the gym and then they provide childcare for you as a part of your membership. All of those, are viable, and anybody who's working in any type of program like that needs to kind of take the same approach in terms of the considerations that we're talking about in this class to provide the best opportunities and experiences for children. Now kind of shifting away from traditional childcare to other programs for young children. And again, this is for the benefit of the group, just in case anybody wants to get outside the box and look at a different type of program for this course. Now I will say the content that you're going to read and that you're going to see is geared directly towards traditional childcare programs. But I think if you think about it from, kind of an open mind standpoint, you'll see how all of the different concepts can apply to any program where you're providing services for young children. So early intervention, that includes service coordination, which is the person who primarily works out of an office and is like, the point person for this child and family and does all the service coordination, hence the name. They are not going and providing specific therapies, right? Specific therapies is another branch of early intervention. That's your occupational therapist, your physical therapist, speech therapist. And the main thing that you need to know there is that it's a team approach, it's a transdisciplinary approach, and everybody who has any workings with that child and family has a seat at the table. Everyone is there for meetings, for planning, for goal setting, and for intervening in whatever that looks like for the different roles and responsibilities. There is a branch of early childhood programming directly related to kind of the medical realm, right? And so this is where child life programs come in. There are child life specialists who only work in emergency room type settings. So they are there to provide supports for children in kind of an acute emergent type of way where, they just need you for the night because something traumatic has happened, and they need a person who works with children who has a background in child development to understand how to coach a child through a traumatic experience and kind of work with them in that setting. There are children who are in the hospital, for chronic care, and they might need kind of an ongoing medical support. So they have a playroom in the hospital that's intended to help in that same way. There are staff on site who are, again, educated in, programming for young children. They're helping children like demonstrating procedures on teddy bears so that when the child's going in for their treatment tomorrow, they understand what's going to be happening to them because they've worked with this specialist to kind of guide them through that process. And then sometimes there are special camps for children who are medically frail or have, kind of atypical developmental needs. And that is another branch of that kind of child life medical piece. And then kind of the final thing that I like to just draw people's attention to are those extra programs like summer programs and after school programs. So your YMCAs, your summer camps, as I mentioned, nature schools, wilderness type programs, and then before and after school as a part of traditional childcare. And so that's another kind of add-on, right? To some preschool programs choose to enroll 6 to 12-year-olds for the morning hours and the end of the day hours to, again, it brings in more revenue, and it's kind of a different way to serve the community in terms of opening up your space to children who need, because most parents don't work 8 to 3, right? They work more like 7 to 5. And that's a huge crisis in this community, in Watauga, in Ashe, surrounding counties, is like, what do we do with our children who are 7 and don't have a place to go for those couple of hours at the end of the day? So it's a real need. And people, again, you have to align with state standards and all the stuff that we're going to talk about in this class in order to provide, those types of experiences, even to children up to 10 and 11 and 12 years old. And that will do it. You can ignore this piece about program rationale. I've taken that off the table for the summer. Any questions or ideas on any of those program types? I'm sure I didn't blow your minds with anything new.
So not about the program types, but as far as our website goes for just creating a website, do you have a particular website that you want us to use to create that website, or just?
It's up to you. Google Sites is pretty basic and you're welcome to use that. It's user-friendly and easy to create with. I know Wix, W-I-X, is another one that people use fairly often. But again, if you just Google search like how to make a free website, Google will be your friend and tell you all that you need to know. I don't, for this, and I should have said this at the beginning, for any of these portfolio assignments, I am not locked into any type of formatting, right? So I've had everything from like a very boring black and white Word document with no graphics which if that's what you're into or that's all you can do, that's okay. But, you know, imagine I'm a mom and I'm trying to choose between 3 programs in my community. I'm probably not going to go with the one that's just the Word document with no graphics, just on professionalism, you know, alone. So what I am looking for, you know, for full credit on these assignments is that you create a professional program handbook. And for me, what that would look like is at least including some sort of clip art graphic or something to kind of spruce it up a little bit. But there's no guidance on that because I leave that completely up to your creative juices. Same thing for the website. You know, it can be as basic or as elaborate as you want to and are able to produce.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions on anything?
So for this week, we're just beginning that website, just creating it.
Yes. So basically by the 29th, I just want you to post the link that will take me to your page, and I will know from that what type of program you're creating, you know, and I'll maybe see the name. You're going to name your program, and you might create like a fake address, phone number, whatever you want your homepage to look like. But that's all I expect for now. As you go through the class and you develop other components of your program, like your mission statement, your family involvement opportunities, you can go back in and plug all of that in. So initially, I will just see that you've started this project. That's what I want to see for the end of this week. And then when we get to the end of the course, I'll go in and actually look to see that you've thoughtfully taken from the course content and plugged it into your webpage.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Okay. So I'm always available by email. If you feel like you get into this and you get stuck and you're like, what in the world did she say? And you can't get it from the video, or you just want, some people just kind of want somebody to look at it and say you're on the right track, you know, and I'm fine with that. You can email me what you've started working on, or we can set up an individual call and I will just look at it with you, give you some feedback. I do not want you to feel like you're going through this blindly. And I realize that, you know, there's a fair amount of content to do kind of in a quick amount of time. So my recommendation to you would be go ahead and start working through these pieces. You do not have to wait until week 3 to start working on the stuff that's due week 4. You know what I mean? I would go ahead and look ahead and kind of map out what you need to do for the class as a whole, and then just chunk it out and start going to it. And that's a huge, the reason why I use the portfolio, one of the reasons that I use the portfolio project for this class is because that's a huge piece of administration, right? Is knowing how to manage your time, knowing how to prioritize tasks, and how to say, I have this big thing due on this date, and here are the, you know, little things I need to do along the way to get me to that big thing being due on time. And so I intentionally have this set up to be pretty self-directed, and, you know, hope that you can develop some management skills out of the process. Okay. Well, it was nice to see you all in real life, kind of. And again, I'm always here, but you are free to go at it on your own from here on out. And then again, these calls, the next 2 calls are just intended to be a checkpoint. So I'll be on. If no one shows up, I'll get off. And if people want to stay on and chat about anything, or I can talk through more specifics for the personnel policies and the health policy. So if you want that specific guidance, it will happen on those next 2 calls. All right. Have a great evening. Enjoy your summers, and let me know if you need anything. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.